But I also don't know if I don't know if there's like a general plan for this in Kubernetes, but it seems
Yeah,
like
so this discussion, what you're talking about, that sort of happened over here. And if you see, for example, client Go, Kubernetes client, or some other repos which are maintained separately, they publish a metrics of support across, like say 1.2 version corresponds to Kubernetes 1.4 version of client Go, something like that, which is published on the repo page and the release page.
I don't think that's optimal at all. I mean, you want users to have a simple way of determining compatibility, and having a compatibility matrix is not a simple way, in my opinion.
no.
Correct, Maru. That's my point is to get the opinion because I didn't get the opinion on the page. So I'm just kickstarting that opinion with related questions.
I think it was also right before the holidays, so a lot of people sort of started to leave and were doing stuff. So now that people are back, there's more opportunity for people to actually look at it. So maybe ping the list with this again and see if people can take another look at it.
Sure, I'll do that. See, I have no problem waiting on this, and then everybody comes back, and then do it whichever way it takes shape. But you see that some people have already raised issues and all about KubeFed not being found in the release and all that. So I think some stopgap at least we need to do, right?
Kind of. I just think that there needs to be more messaging as to, the supportability of what they're trying to use anyway. Like previously there was kind of, oh yeah, this is part of Kubernetes and you can use it. And how is someone to differentiate the quality of KubeFed versus say kubekettle? Currently there's zero, and then therefore you have people continuing to use Federation as if it was something that they should put into production in current form. And I think that's a problem. So to me, the fact that it's not part of Kubernetes and people are like, well, what do I do? Is an opportunity to message the real state of the world and say, we're actively working on developing a solution that's supportable. Until that time, you can get, the pre-alpha thing that we're working on in the tree today, but make it clear that, we're going to see something that looks a little bit different from an API perspective and maybe a usability perspective. And you might want to wait until that's available before you think about productionizing your solution with this.
You think the repo README might be a good place to put this, or some other solution?
That might be an okay. Well, however people are going to land on Federation today. I realized, and I haven't obviously followed up with it, but when we removed Federation from the Kubernetes tree, probably should have left a placeholder indicating the state of the world and what to do now that it's no longer in the tree. Because
we can still do that.
Yeah, I honestly think that's a good idea. Like having Federation as a path, the way it used to be, and do something or go here if you're interested in it, and maybe provide a brief overview of the state of the world there, just in case people just run off to get the binaries and don't read anything.
It's kind of like an HTTP redirect.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. And I think majority of the people, the users, actually go through documentation. So they go to the documentation and just say, okay, the release is available here, and then let's try to use it. There's a big bunch of people who actually go and land at wherever the binaries are that way. So that also needs update. But that is sort of, I am sort of waiting for the release to happen some ways, after which I can update the documents.
Previously, I think it was possible for people to just go to, a Kubernetes release and just, pull the Federation artifacts out of that or use those. Because that's no longer possible, we have an opportunity to provide some documentation as to the state of the world. So some people might read the docs. Some people might go, hey, Federation, I'm going to go consume the binaries. Oh, it's not there. Where do I get it? And then we can actually explain the situation.
Okay. Yeah. So that sounds fine to me. I'll try to update these things in the next couple of days.
Cool.
Okay. I don't have anything specifically apart from these two things in the agenda. This is the agenda basically from the last meeting, which was there. So I thought there were some KubeCon updates related to the people joining this, but I don't think there is enough attendance today for that kind of update. And I remember that one of the Istio guys mentioned that he would want to speak in the Federation sync. I did individually send him a invite. Uh, I'm not sure if he is aware that meeting is today or not.
If it's Gautam, I think he's aware that the meetings are on Tuesdays, but he might not be on the second.
Yeah, he mentioned that somehow the calendar invite was not showing up for him even after joining the group. So he mentioned that he'll try to get in sync with you. I'm not sure if we did get in touch with you, Christian.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one item to discuss. Like, if nothing else, it is related to Federation.
Yep.
Currently, we are using KubeFed to deploy the Federation control plane components, right? So, as an alternative, can we think of Helm chart? Like, are we reinventing the same stuff? Like, it is growing too huge to adapt to all sorts of customizations. Is there any concerns like it can be easily done through Helm charts, right?
Wasn't there a concern like similar to cluster registry that there's network configuration that's hard to do with Helm? Maybe you could speak to that, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem with cluster registry was precisely the problem with Kubernetes in that, so if you wanted to set up a certificate for doing SSL, in order to do that, you had to create the service and get its IP address so that you could sign the certificate properly. And there wasn't a way in Helm charts to represent that sort of dependent scenario of first create the service, then create the SSL certificate and pull it in. I know that Paul, and I think Lindsay looked into this in some more detail, and maybe Ivan, and said that basically determined that this was not going to be possible, and came back with this more or less as their explanation, which is, as of yet, I mean, I haven't looked personally myself, and I haven't looked recently, but I don't think, given that it's going to be possible to make Helm charts work as is. I think if you wanted to use Helm or charts, it would have to be an alternative strategy or a less integrated setup solution where there's more manual steps for the user to do.
Yeah.
Okay, Shashi, I think you created one issue also. Just put in the link to that issue and maybe we can update these pointers over there. Yeah.
And also, like, why I'm asking this is, like, currently we deploy etcd as a pod within the same deployment as the API server right now. It may not be an ideal way, like how the user wants to use it. So probably they have already deployed an etcd server, and then above that they probably want to use the Federation. So right now the Federation control plane sits on just the one host KRS cluster. Maybe it is not that ideal also. Like, many people are asking, like, how do we spread this control plane across clusters? So in that sense, like, right now I tried decoupling this, but then you need to keep adding the flags, and then again the same KubeFed. Many people are stuck right now because they are not able to add more flags, right? So that's why this whole thing came up. So I think
what flags are we talking about?
Adding flags to the KubeFed. Maybe.
No. Which specific flags are required for this use case?
Maybe accept something like etcd certificates or endpoints.
So that's not possible? For some reason, I thought it was possible to provide like configuration for an external etcd cluster.
I don't think so, if I understand correctly. Currently, it is all intrinsic. The etcd is deployed like a single pod within the API server deployment.
No, I think Shashi is talking about there was already a discussion about not trying to add more flags. And if any point of time we land into a situation where we need more flex, to better move to using some mechanism of config like kubeadm is using. I mean, that's for an example.
Sure.
Right. So,
right. I just wasn't sure that
yeah.
there was, like, for some reason I was under the impression that it was possible to configure an existing etcd cluster. I would ask, though, it seems like the common challenge here is that Helm doesn't support the features that would be required to do like SSL. That seems like that would be a common enough scenario that, you know, we should file an issue with Helm and see if they can fix it, rather than having to continue maintaining our own tool for that. I would hope would be a relatively simple thing to get Helm to do.
Yeah, yeah, it's all in theory right now. Yeah, we can give it a try. Maybe it's a long time since we re-looked into this.
I'm not saying it does it today. I'm just saying if that's a deficiency in Helm, I can see a need for this capability for a lot of different things, at least within the Kubernetes like ecosystem that, you know, the upstream development community works on, let alone downstream. So, I mean, if we solve that in general, then everybody wins versus, oh, we're just going to continue, you know, extending something like KubeFed because Helm has this deficiency. That's imposing a major cost on the development.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I have a vague recollection of Helm either saying we don't have time to do this or this isn't something that we particularly want to do. Unfortunately, I can't remember which or if that's true, so it's definitely worth filing an issue and letting them respond again if that's not a path that they want to take Helm down. I could understand if they don't want to add too much logic into Helm and if they don't want to say open the door to like, well, if we do this, does it become a Turing complete system for doing configuration, which just gets too complicated? But we'll see.
I mean, the other option is that we work within Helm to, like, if I think about like, oh, I need some sort of dependency mechanism for getting the service and the SSL certificate, like matching, maybe there could be a pod that actually does that, you know, Helm deploys and figures out how to do it. Like it seems like something we should be able to solve with a little bit of work. We just have to justify that effort.
It might also be the case that, I mean, a lot of what KubeFed does could be migrated into Helm charts with the bits that have to be done with a sort of with logic living in KubeFed. And then those Helm charts exist independently for people to use in a setup that doesn't use KubeFed necessarily.
Right.
Which would be, I think, a win, because then it'd be much easier, I think, to deploy without an etcd if there's just a Helm chart that deploy the FCP with some options and a Helm chart to deploy etcd with some options, and then people can pick and choose which ones they want to put together.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that Helm is like nominally just a bunch of configuration means that it's much easier for customization like downstream versus KubeFed, where you might actually have to change Go code. I would be very much in favor of making it easier to allow downstream customization.
I agree. Yeah, that's
Agree. Okay, let's give it some effort, and yeah, I'll spend some time on that and try to put up an issue in the Helm.
Okay, thanks, Shashi.
Yeah.
Okay, there are no, I mean, do we need this updates from cluster registry?
I mean, the last update is that there was a 0.0.1, there was an alpha release.
Yeah.
Hooray.
Other than
congratulations.
That, thank you. And there's really been nothing much. There's been a little bit, I guess, done since then, but not really much. The goal now is sort of to work through the rest of the items, basically just work through the items and the milestones. I have a goal probably over the next few weeks to try and have a more comprehensive testing plan for the cluster registry. And then to start working on actually writing test harnesses and test frameworks and figuring out what kinds of tests we want to have. I think there's some other just issues that need to be worked on. One thing that will be hopefully coming up soon is that as the cluster registry, I'd like to start thinking more carefully about how to integrate the cluster registry, replace the Federation cluster API with a cluster registry, either as an aggregated server or as some sort of direct inclusion. I think now it's in a state where at least ready to start talking about that and figuring out if there is anything left blocking it. The one thing I know about is that the cluster object doesn't yet have a status. I don't think that would be that difficult to add just the status that's similar to what Federation uses, and I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing that anybody who's doing clusters and doing them in any active reconciliation would have some sort of status like that.
Give an example of what values status would have.
It would be the same value. I think for now it would be the same values that Federation does. So it would be like healthy, unhealthy, reachable, unreachable, that sort of thing. I think beyond that, there's not much to report.
Okay, cool. Yep. Anybody else, anything to update? I don't think there is anything more than this for today's meeting.
Happy holidays. Hope everyone rested up.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New
Happy New
Year
Year
to
to
all.
all. Bye-bye.
Okay, see you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.